Hey guys, and welcome to my K-tera online guide to warriors. Before I get into this guide, there's something I need to address about warriors tanking. Everyone must be wondering, are warriors tanks or DPS? Well, they're DPS, not tanks. They have remnants of their old arsenals that allow them to tank, so don't get me wrong, they are very much capable of tanking, and if you can't find a Lancer, go for it. But they have been rebuilt by Bluehole to do damage and be a damage dealing class, and are very good at it. If you need further proof of this, try queuing for a dungeon in K-tera as a warrior. You will never be given the role of the tank. That being said, I'll still cover warriors' tanking abilities and go over how they tank. So let's get started. Starting out as a warrior, you will get two skills. The first skill is your basic attack, combo attack. The primary use of the skill is to regenerate mana, as it does less damage than all of your other skills. There are a few things to note about warriors' basic attack though that set it apart from other classes' basic attacks. Firstly, you'll get a skill later that modifies your basic attack to have another effect. Secondly, you can glyph this skill to have a 5% chance to stun your opponent for 2 seconds. This doesn't seem like it's worth mentioning because 5% is very low and 2 seconds isn't very long, but I'll go into stun locking towards the end of the video and explain this in more detail then. The second skill you'll get is called Evasion Roll, your most important skill as a warrior. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here before I go further into the guide, so prepare yourself. This skill is your version of a Lancer's block, so if you wish to tank anything as a warrior, you absolutely must master this skill to avoid taking damage. Warriors are a fast-paced class and have an arsenal of skills that rely completely on timing, and this is your first example of how important timing is. And this is why warriors are the hardest class to play in K-tera. That being said, there have been a lot of rumor spreaders saying that warriors are also the worst class in K-tera, and I cannot stress how wrong this is. In fact, warriors are the only class in this game I would consider overpowered. The problem with warriors is that the difference between a good warrior and a bad warrior is like night and day, and they are incredibly difficult to be good at. An expert warrior with equal gear will dominate any class in 1v1 though. And when I say dominate, I mean dominate. Additionally, their damage output matches all the other damage dealing classes and in some situations is higher. On top of their high damage ability output though, in groups they have the ability to stunlock a BAM for up to 10 seconds, and if coordinated with a Lancer and a Slayer, they can potentially permanently stunlock a BAM, assuming no stuns get resisted. At level 2, a trainer will teach you a skill called Rain of Blows. This is a high damage skill and the first skill you'll get that add combo points to a target. If you're playing North American Beta, you're probably wondering, what the hell is a combo point? Well, a combo point is something recently added to K-tera that you put on a target when you use certain abilities. I'll point out every ability that adds combo points and also point out combo finishers as they come up. You can visually see your combo points on a mob if you look under their health bars. Other players are also able to see your combo points despite not being able to use them, unless they too are a warrior. A few things to note about combo points is that 1. The maximum you can have stacked on a target is 10. Having less than 5 will have no effect though. You must stack at least 5 points on a mob before they do anything to benefit your finishing skills. If you use a finisher with less than 5 combo points on a mob, it will not consume the points. Additionally, if you miss your enemy with your finisher, the points won't be consumed. 2. Combo points decay over 5 seconds, meaning if you don't stack another combo point onto a mob once every 5 seconds, you'll lose them all. And 3, if you are grouped with another warrior, you will share combo points. He can use yours and you can use his. In current K-tera builds, you only have 2 finisher abilities, one of which I will not cover in this guide as it is a level 60 skill and I plan to go over all level 60 skills in a video later on, given that I haven't gone over them for the classes I've already done guides for. I'll briefly explain the finishers later on though. Back to the skill at hand, Rain of Blows is a strong damage skill that deals its damage through a series of attacks, most of the damage coming towards the ends of the swings. Also note that you will only get a combo point off of Rain of Blows if the last hit in the series hits. So try not to miss it or cut it off by breaking it with Evasive Roll or another combo skill. You can also glyph this skill to restore hit points, which is great for leveling. Also note that the skill, like many warrior skills, reduces the damage you take while you are using it. This is remnants of when warriors were intended to be tanks, but just because you might not be tanking BAMs doesn't mean you shouldn't try to optimize these damage reduction effects in PvE and PvE. Skills like these are why warriors remain very tanky even though they wear leather. The next skill you'll learn is called Vortex Slash. This skill can only be used after you use Evasive Roll or another evade attack you get later on. It's an effective AoE slash that hits all targets around you, which is particularly good after using Evasive Roll because you probably won't be facing the right direction to hit your mob if you rolled through him. I must stress that you should not get into the habit of using Evasive Roll solely to use this ability though, but rather you should use this ability if you use Evasive Roll. It'll add to your damage early on, but this is a terrible habit given that timing the uses of your evasive roll is a key part of being a great warrior. Next is Combative Strike. This attack stacks combo points and also drains health instead of mana when used. This has a low cooldown and high damage and is also one of your first main chain skill openers. This is a good skill to open a combo with because it increases your target's damage taken by reducing its endurance, setting up nicely for the rest of your skills in that chain. You may want to glyph it to reduce the hit point cost while leveling though to reduce your downtime. Next up is Rising Fury. This skill can be used twice in succession, the second hit giving a combo point. The ability does more damage the less health you have, but that doesn't mean it's a good idea to intentionally run around at low HP to use this skill. This skill is very situational and you shouldn't be using it all that often. Going out of your way to sit in the red just so it hits harder is a dumb idea. The following next two skills go hand in hand. You'll get two stances, a defensive stance and an assault stance, and their names really speak for themselves. You can only use one at a time, but their effects are really good, so always make sure you have one active. They have a mana upkeep cost, but it is very negligible. Just remember if you die, you have to reactivate your stance. The defensive stance increases your threat generated and reduces your damage taken by increasing your endurance, so naturally you should only use this when tanking. The assault stance increases your strength and crit, but increases your damage taken, so naturally use this when you are DPSing. Now we move on to your first of two finishing skills, Battlecry. Battlecry is a warrior's mini version of a lancer's taunt. It generates high threat and stuns the opponent. If you are tanking, you should use this to interrupt BAMs or maintain aggro, but the main functions of the spell are its stun component. Using this skill with 5 or more combo points will lengthen the duration of the stun on Battlecry. In most cases while you are soloing, you will kill mobs before you get very far past 5 stacks, so the primary applications of this are stunning BAMs, or in PvP. You'll also have a hard time stacking combo points on players though until you get your full arsenal later on, so I'll go over stun locking as well as full DPS combos at the end of the video. Next up is a skill called Torrential Blows. This is a high threat ability that cuts the damage you take in half while you're casting it. While tanking, this will be one of your primary threat skills, and it combos nicely with Rain of Blows when used with proper timing, but when DPSing, this skill will sit on the back burner in light of other higher damage skills that give combo points. Smoke Aggressor is your next skill and is one of the coolest skills in the game. This ability will drain 20% of your health in order to summon a clone of yourself that will take aggro off of anything you're tanking and take some hits for you. It's great when you're tanking a BAM and suddenly need a potty break. Just summon this guy and he'll take over so you can take a quick AFK. Joking aside, this clone does do next to no damage and does not flinch enemies, meaning it is bad to use in order to contribute to your DPS or health in PvP. Use this to help tanking a BAM or when tanking normal mobs when soloing if you want time to generate more threat or get hits from the rear. After Smoke Aggressor comes Poison Blade. This skill adds combo points and puts damage over times on your enemies that does a set amount of damage based on the rank of the skill. The poison doesn't stack and it doesn't deal an impressive amount of damage, making it one of the only skills you'll neglect as a warrior. It has its uses, but it's very situational, its main use being to stack combo points quickly during a stun lock when your other skills are on cooldown. Next up is a skill called Pounce. This skill is a chain skill opener and a gap closer that slows your opponents after leaping towards them and dealing some damage. This will be your primary chain skill opener when DPSing as a warrior, especially in PvP on enemies that are fleeing. It's great for closing gaps and crippling enemies, making it harder for them to escape you for a few seconds. Following Pounce is a similar skill called Leap Strike. This strike also has mobility to it, but its primary use is to do hefty damage to knock down opponents. Use this on players, mobs, or BAMs when they are knocked over to kick them while they're down. Death from Above is your next skill and your second and last evasion skill. Like Evasive Roll, while using this ability you will be unhittable. This skill is better than Evasive Roll because it does damage, but it has a longer cooldown. Note that it can combo into Vortex Slash just like Evasive Roll does. Because its cooldown is longer, there is more emphasis on timing with this skill than there is with Evasive Roll. It can also be glyphed to have a 50% chance to boost your attack speed by 15% for 10 seconds, making it potentially a very deadly combo opener that chains into a lot of other high damage skills. I recommend using this skill more for its evasion aspect though, rather than its combo opener in PvP. Traverse Cut is your core damage skill, and it is very tricky to time and use. First, by itself, the skill is very lackluster. It'll strike 3 times and do laughable damage while reducing your opponent's endurance by a small amount. This skill shines when it is comboed with other skills, making it hit 13 times instead of 3. The window to combo this skill and get 13 hits is very small. so make sure you master using it in that small time frame. Also note that when hitting 13 times with it, you can cut yourself short by using another skill early before the 13 slashes are done, so be careful about this. This will usually be the first skill you use after you gap close with Pounce, or hit with Combative Strike. The endurance reducing aspect of this is a good way to start off a high damage combo, especially when using it after Combative Strike, which also reduces endurance. Next is Blade Draw, another ability that shines when used in combo and stacks a combo point on your enemy. When used by itself, this skill has a fairly long swing timer, so it's best to use it as a chain skill after using Traverse Cut or Vortex Slash. Note that using the skill early out of Traverse Cut will cut Traverse Cut short. Woo, tongue twister! Regardless, this is a high damage skill and will be what ends most of your combo chains. Next is Charging Slash, your high mobility skill as a warrior. This will make you move very quickly across any battlefield to get you to an enemy. A very good gap closer or opener, and if you use it in PvE, it will generate high threat for you upon connecting with a mob by automatically slashing said target. Note that unlike Lancer's Lunge, this skill will not make you pass through the enemy's collision. Now we move on to a skill called Mangle, an interesting skill that buffs your basic attack. It has a minor upkeep cost, but it's worth having this on. Like your stances, it will deactivate on death. What this does is it makes it so every time you hit a target with your basic attack 4 times in a row, it will slow them by 25% for 5 seconds. What this means for you is that if you go out of mana while attacking something and need to regen, you can use basic attacks on them to regen without worrying about them getting a gap opening as much as they normally would, or kicking your ass. Alright, now it's time for Backstab. A very important skill in a warrior's arsenal. This skill, when used, will automatically teleport you behind your target and stun them for 5 seconds, while giving you a combo point and readjusting your camera for you. You can glyph the skill to lower its 30-second cooldown and increase the stun duration. It's important to note that this skill will automatically adjust your camera for you and the direction you are facing, but it has a slight delay. You can immediately use the skill after using Backstab before the camera readjusts itself for you, and it will properly hit your target from behind. So don't try to manipulate your camera yourself and wait before attacking. Use your next skill after Backstab right away to maximize its stun effectiveness. Seeing this skill, you might finally start seeing why I consider warriors the only overpowered class in Terra. In PvE, because of this skill, you can essentially kill anything before it breaks out of a stun. But it gets better. Let's keep going. Next is an activation skill called Deadly Gamble. This increases your crit rate by a high amount, but also increases your chance to be crit. This skill is situational, but in PvE, when you aren't taking damage, it's a great DPS boost in cooldown. Just be careful not to get hit when you activate this. Also note it has a fairly long cooldown, so time its burst correctly. Next up is Staggering Counter. This is a bit like a Lancer's counter. You can only use it after you take damage though. What this skill does is retaliates after you are hit, flipping your opponent around so that their back is facing you and stunning them for 3 seconds, leaving them extremely vulnerable to your burst damage. Using this skill will open up your stunlock combo, but I'll go over that in a bit. The next skill you get at 58, and the last skill I'm going to go over, is called Cascade of Stuns. This skill will hit any target that you have stunned and carry its stuns over to any nearby targets, essentially making it an AoE stun. Note that the duration of this stun that carries over will not match the duration of the stun on the primary target it is spreading off of. It will AoE stun anything nearby for 3 seconds if the primary target is already stunned by something. At level 60, warriors will get their second and final finishing combo skill. It is a damage finisher that you'll use when you build up 5 combo points or more, being your primary finisher for DPSing in PvE. I won't go into detail on it here though, because I plan to do a complete overview of level 60 skills soon, where I'll go into all level 60 class skills, including the classes I've already done guides for. I'm only mentioning it because I want you to be aware it exists, and that you only have 2 finishers. Alright, now that we're at the end of the video, I'll go over your DPS rotation and stun locking. If you aren't too interested in PvP, you may think that stun locking won't be of any use of you, but that is far from the truth, and you can use it on bans. Your DPS rotation is fairly simple. First, you should open up any rotation using Combative Strike. This ability reduces the target's endurance and gives you a combo point, so use this spell frequently to keep stacking combo points and keep the enemy's endurance down. Secondly, pop your Backstab skill. This will stun the target and teleport you behind it, giving you another combo point and giving you the perfect chance to lay in an effective damage combo. Start with Pounce, then Traverse, then Blade Draw, and then land another Combative Strike. Then use Death from Above while the BAM has all of your endurance reducing debuffs on it, and then use Rain of Blows. After these, use Vortex and another Combative Strike. You should have a decent amount of combo points built up, assuming you landed the majority of your hits. If you did, this would be an optimal time to use your level 60 combo finisher, at which point you would start the rotation again. Avoid using skills like Poison Blade because of its poor damage, and Torrential Blows because of its high threat. If you are aiming to stunlock someone in PvP after being hit, open with a Staggering Counter. Lay on a Combative Strike and Poison Blade for 2 quick combos before using Backstab for a 3rd combo. Then drop into your Pounce, Traverse, and then Blade Draw for a 4th. Another Combat Strike for a 5th, and then use your finishing Battlecry for another stun. At this point, you'll have set yourself up to lay down your hardest hitting skills, Death from Above, then Vortex, then Rain of Blows. If you successfully land all of these attacks, you'll find yourself killing other players before they can even get out of your stuns. And that's it for my warrior guide. I cannot stress enough how difficult it is to play a warrior though. I do not recommend playing this class unless you have a lot of experience in action games and are patient and good with timing. I apologize for the delay on this upload. The Slayer and the Berserker guides will be coming soon, and then I'll be adding level 60 skills videos, an advanced class guide, dungeon guides, and other jazz. So look forward to it. Subscribe, like, and if you have any questions, leave a comment. See you later.